Let's talk about what I'm labeling as the second pillar or exemption or being exempt from levy. And what does levy mean? Levy means being having something placed upon you, right? Which is okay if you're allowing it, but the contracts that we have engaged with, most of us engaged with the IRS have not been with full disclosure, and oftentimes under force of coercion or duress, and that makes invalid contracts. But I want to talk about not just the reasons why the contracts are invalid based on contract law, but from a moral standpoint, I want to get into that because I know a lot of people feel like it's their obligation to pay taxes. Otherwise, we wouldn't have a functioning society. And I would like us to expand our mind and think about that a little bit because if we are taxing people without letting them know exactly where their money is going to, so do you know exactly what is happening to the money that you've given to the IRS? No. And if we are taxing people with threat of jail, I think we need to look at where our morality stands in that. And then I want to look at, then we need to consider all the other taxes. Your income is taxed, and then on that you pay a sales tax, and then you pay a property tax on property that you buy. So I think that taxation needs to be looked at in a bigger picture. But for right now, my intention is to help you understand that contractually wise, you are not obligated to interact with the IRS whatsoever. So you don't need to sign their paperwork. You don't need, and when you do, you are entering a contract. So I want you to be conscious of that. But in terms of why I made it the second pillar, is that it if you are being taxed upon, you are not in control of your kingdom, right? Because someone else is impeding into you and essentially bleeding out your life force energy, right? The labor that you put in, the things that you create are being taxed upon. And what right do they have other than you contracting with them to have that right to impede upon that, especially if the terms of the contract aren't really well laid out. You don't know exactly what you're getting in return, right? You're getting governmental services, but which specifically? We have sales tax. Those are supposed to cover, local community stuff, the roads and whatnot, and the police and fire department. So what are you exactly getting out of that? And if the IRS wanted to spell that out in detailed terms about exactly where the money I was giving was going, and I felt that that was a worthy cause, I might consider that contract, right? But I don't know that, and they won't provide that to me. So I'm going to cancel the contract, right? So that I'm in control of my commercial kingdom. So if you watched the four pillars presentation, which I hope you did, I had this pillar represented by the Tin Man, right? Because what you create, your labor that you earn income from is your lifeblood, right? And if it's being taken from you, it's part of your heart being stolen or gone. And if you want to be in control of your commercial kingdom, you need to find your heart, right? You need your heart back. And that's what exempting yourself from taxation is really, really all about, right? And I think there's a moral side to that, and you being able to protect what your creation, what you're giving back to the world, and having a determination of what happens to how that income is going. Wouldn't you rather spend that income that you are voluntarily giving to the IRS to some other cause, maybe something in your local community, maybe just to help your kids, maybe to help yourself improve yourself? All of those things are worthy. Actually, I don't care what you spend it on, but um, it's your right to have control over how you contract for those terms. Okay, so just to reiterate, being exempt from levy is about being in control of a part of your commercial kingdom, being in control of all of your life force energy that you give to the world. And on the technical side, contracts must be done with mutual benefit. So as I've said, if you don't know exactly what you're getting from the IRS in return for the money you're sending them, there's no understanding of a mutual benefit. Full disclosure, you're not getting full disclosure that it's voluntary. I mean, they put it in one little code, which I cover in the next video, but you know, mostly it's threat of jail that they send you mean letters. But don't be scared of mean letters. You get to consciously decide how you are going to interact with those letters, because you are learning how to be in control of your commercial kingdom. And then again, consent. So consent under duress is not true consent. So contract made under duress is void. And technically what we're going to be doing in the section of the videos about taking control of your exemption isn't canceling. It's not voiding the contracts. It's actually updating. Okay. So I know there's some people out there that use the term like get rid of. You're just updating, because until we live in a society where these trusts it don't no longer exist, right? We just operate in the real world instead of this artificial world. You don't actually want to void out your trust. You don't want to void out the fact that the Treasury Department is basically in charge of the trust, right? So what the steps that we're going to be laying out in the next several videos to find your exemption is actually handing over the fiduciary responsibility to the Secretary of the Treasury over your trust, your commercial instrument. So they're in charge of determining now, because they're the fiduciary and you've made it very clear, you're separating the roles. You're going to be the beneficiary, and whoever is the treasury, the Secretary of the Treasury is going to be the fiduciary of your commercial account. And in regards to taxes or any other things concerning the IRS, that's what Form 56 does. Okay, so you're giving the Secretary of the Treasury the right to use any of the IRS forms that they deem determined. Now, instead of you having to figure out what taxes your straw man owes, Secretary of Treasury, right? And you're also doing that, you're separating your living soul and your labor, your actions from your commercial name, right? So any work that you're doing, any labor, any monies that you receive is actually not attached to your straw man, it's attached to you, and you are not taxable. The IRS can only interact with your straw man. Most people are confused and think that the IRS is actually interacting with the living soul, but they are not. So you're telling with Form 56 the IRS that you're in charge of this straw man. If this straw man happens to go out and get a job and make some money, good for it. You can tax it. Maybe you can send me the leftover money that isn't owed, right? Wouldn't that be nice? So that's the big picture. And then I want to go into a question that I get all the time. And yes, I'm calling this the second pillar, because I think the passport is so important. It helps correct your identity in the system. But it does take a long time to get, especially I get lots of reports from people that are having trouble getting birth certificates. So please go down that process, but it doesn't stop you from going down this process simultaneously. So even though I marked this as 2, because I think it's slightly less important than the passport, but all 4 pillars are equally important in being in control of your financial kingdom, and you can work them all at the same time, especially since the passport one takes a long time. And this exempt from levy can take less, depending on if you work for an employer and you're just going to do the 2 steps. That could be done today if you're committed to it. If you're trying to set up a private foreign EIN, that might take a little bit longer. But anyways, don't let this stop you from, just because I labeled it number 2, let that stop you from moving forward while you're simultaneously doing your passport. Technically, you can exempt yourself from taxation without getting the passport at all, but I highly recommend the passport for many other reasons. Okay, that's covered in other videos. Let me see. The other thing about that I get asked a lot is, will this prevent me, if I go through this process, will this prevent me from Social Security and any other benefits, veterans benefits, disability benefits, any of receiving any of those benefits? First of all, that's a separate contract. Okay. So people need to start understanding that the Social Security Administration, it's its own corporation. The United States is its own corporation. The IRS is its own corporation. The Treasury is its own corporation. They're all separate corporations. Every contract, every piece of paper you sign is a separate contract with them. Okay, so what you do with the IRS does not impact what you do with these other corporations. The reason people think it impacts is because a lot of those corporations ask you to say if you're a citizen, right? And if you claim that you're a citizen, then they think that you're lost at sea, you haven't taken control of your financial kingdom, and therefore the US corporation has jurisdiction over your estate because they're watching it for you, right? And that's so then they're going to proceed, all these other organizations thinking that you're lost at sea are going to operate with you in a different way, right? But if you go, you can keep all your benefits and claim all your benefits. Just say, just don't check that you're a US citizen. You can cross out US citizen and say American national. And if you have questions, please, and a specific form, you can join the cohort and ask about those things. So hopefully you got a good big picture. I really hope that you take action and stop paying voluntary taxes if you choose. And I really hope that this adds value to your life and that you do wonderful things with that extra income that you are enjoying back into your kingdom.